Hey everybody, I'm Smith Slye. I am one of the sports editors here at Daily Evergreen alongside Jett Hatch. And earlier this week, me and Jett got to sit down with one of the sports editors for The Daily, which is UW's student paper. We got to sit down and kind of talk our predictions and our thoughts on this coming Apple Cup. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over and we'll let you hear our conversation.
I wasn't going to be the one to bring it up, but I'm glad you did. I guess we'll just kind of start with that. Essentially, it's been interesting, I guess, to start for Wazoo this year. You have kind of a nail biter against Idaho, and then you stomp San Diego State, and then you go to North Texas, and it kind of goes like that. I guess what's been kind of your reactions to the first three games so far?
Well, I mean, I'd say the Idaho game is like, look, you got a new head coach who was coaching at the FCS level last year, comes up to coach this program for the FBS level. First game under your, there's going to be some hiccups. And he admitted that too. Or Jimmy Rogers was like, hey, there were some missteps, there were some balks, there were some things that we need to clean up. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. This is your first live game reps with the team. So I was like, okay, that makes sense. I can excuse the 13-10 win against an FCS school. And it was a good FCS school, so I'll take that all day. I would have hoped that we would have won by more, but a win is a win at the end of the day. We want to know. And then the SDSU game was got me kind of excited because I was like, all right, hey, we like he said, there were some missteps, there were some balks, and we fixed them. We were able to get the run game working out a little bit better. We're starting to use Jackson Potter the way he's supposed to be used, along with Julian Duggar as well. So we started to sort those things out with SDSU, kind of blew them out a little bit, and I was really confident. I was like, hey, we got this North Texas game, which I was thinking we were going to beat up on North Texas. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I was expecting to go 3-0 to start the season to go into the Apple Cup. And then that North Texas game, look, I know a lot of people, a lot of Coup fans look at that game and they're just like, oh, the season's over. It's just so over after that 59-10 loss. And the way I look at it is like this. If we had lost by 20, 30 points, right, I would say, yeah, season's over. That was just we got beat. Clearly we can't put things together, something like that. We lost by 49, right? That is, when you lose by that much to North Texas, I just view that purely as an anomaly. It was purely just a breakdown game. Just everything, the wheels fell off, right? Not because we're a bad program, but just because something was just not going right. It's like in golf. When you're golfing and you're doing so good for the first part of your round, and then you have one hole where you just completely melt down, and it's not because you're a bad golfer, it's just because something happens that you just can't control and you just completely melt down. That's how I view that North Texas game. So I know a lot, I'm a bit delusional Coug where I'm I think that we could possibly win the Apple Cup. And I know a lot of people are after that North Texas game, there's no chance, but I purely view it as an anomaly. And I know, Jett, you're laughing at me, so I'll turn it over to you.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, we're definitely the yin and yang part of this. We had Rogers come in, and I thought it wasn't a bad hire. We had 70 new players. My biggest worry was they were the South Dakota State guys, and so I was questioning, okay, what level of players are we getting? And Gronowski was their quarterback. He goes to Iowa. And yeah, I just started thinking we got I'm not a big fan. Clearly I'm very skeptical, and I always have been. I like to view it more as I'm kind of more of the national college sports columnist. So I view it from a whole perspective. And yeah, I was questioning, if we can't even get the top South Dakota State guys, how are we gonna be anything? And so I questioned it a lot. And then Jackson started the season, and I was thinking he was our third stringer last year. How many reps was he getting? The Idaho game was rough. I mean, I would give it to Smith a little bit with the 70 new guys, new head coach, new coaching staff. Oh, man. Wow. Oh, yeah. And then North Texas happened, and coming up, our schedule is the Apple Cup, And we definitely have some winnable games, but it's Virginia on the road, James Madison on the road, Ole Miss on the road, and I'm not skeptical. My prediction was 41-7 UW. I might have been a little too harsh, but I think the 20-point spread is quite fair, to say the least.
I was noticed that it was, I think it was 12.5, and then they bumped it up to 20.5, which for a rivalry game seems pretty high. I'm kind of with Smith there. It does seem a little high for it's an Apple Cup. Like anything, we thought like 2023 was going to be a blowout, and then it was a last-second field goal. So I guess for rivalries, I guess, have any of the players or coaches kind of emphasized like how important this game is? I know last year, Joe Dicker, who were Wake Forest, was talking about like they wanted to keep the Pac-12 trophy forever because they went to the Big Ten. I guess now this with the new staff and new players, have any of them kind of, I guess, had that feeling of like this is the most important game on the schedule, or has it just kind of been business as usual?
It's kind of hard to tell. I know Jimmy Rogers did a press conference, I think, yesterday. I didn't go. I hadn't seen that, so maybe he talks a little bit about that because I think they were probably asking him about the Apple Cup coming up. The vibe that I really get from Jimmy Rogers is love him as a coach. I'm sure he's a great coach, but he's very very laid back. I wouldn't put it, I wouldn't expect him to take rivalries not seriously, but like doesn't put too much weight into them. I think for him it's like what you said, it's business as usual. I think that's kind of Rogers' whole identity, is like every single game is just like show up and just do the job. He's very laid back. He's not like a lot of those football coaches who are like super animated, very energetic or anything like that, which I mean not everybody loves. I don't necessarily love that. I like it when coaches are really like vibrant and really like animated and like have that kind of passion, especially for football, because I think that's one of those sports where you're allowed to do that. So I mean, probably for some of these guys who are like on the team who are returning Cougs and are diehard Cougs, I'm sure they get pretty fired up for this. But I imagine for some of these SDSU guys who are going from, you go from like across the state, like South Dakota, over to Washington, I doubt that they're too fired up about it, but I don't know. What do you think, Jett?
So I was covering the sports. I was the sports anchor yesterday on the news, so I listened to the whole press conference, and it sounded like once he got here, all everybody talked about to Rogers, like straight to him, was about the UW game, was about the Apple Cup. And so I think part of that mixed with, while he was at South Dakota State, the rivalry with North Dakota State was like 1-2 in FCS every year. So I think it's like he has a good sense of how to play, or the mindset to go into a big rivalry game. And he kind of brings that over, and like UW's the big rival. So it's definitely not like Ohio State to Michigan where, they're crossing off ends and it's like, oh, never say like UW or Seattle or, he's very well spoken. He's a very well spoken coach. I just don't know. He hasn't done it on we're not even Power 5, I guess, anymore. He hasn't done it on the FBS level, though. So it'll be interesting to see, press conferences and interviews leading up, how he attacks the game.
Yeah, I should let you go first because I didn't realize you did it for the Monroe News 8 yesterday. So yeah, I should let you lead on that one. I apologize, Jett. Yeah.
No, you're good.
I think it's gonna be an interesting game. I think in Martin Stadium, it's not necessarily the biggest stadium in college football. It doesn't have like the most capacity. I think like compared to like a lot of other college football venues that are probably a lot better. But the one thing that we do have going for us, and I don't know, Andrew, if you probably haven't heard about this, but we're doing a pilot program at Martin Stadium to do beer sales in the fan section, not in the student section, but in the fan section, where we hadn't had that before. So the only places where you could like buy beer and wine and stuff was like in the suites And so now they're able to actually do it, like have your drink with you in the stands if you're on the fan side, which is going to be interesting because I know it's the Apple Cup. So like one of the problems, I think Jett and I were talking about it before you hopped on the call, is that a lot of our fans kind of leave at halftime. That's kind of the thing that happens, is because they'll come to the game, watch it for the first half, and then after halftime, usually they leave to go to parties or somewhere else to go drink. It's a little different for the Apple Cup. Like they'll probably stay through to the entire game. A lot of them probably will because it's the Apple Cup, unless we're getting just absolutely crushed, which potentially might happen in this year. But I think it's gonna be interesting with that because it's gonna be a bit of a rowdier crowd. So I don't know, if we get blown out, plus the fact that now people can actually drink in the stadium, it's probably gonna get pretty rowdy in Martin. So I don't know. I'm really looking forward to it. So.
I heard that they just, I guess, I don't, it wasn't not the Supreme Court, but like the commission or whatever just signed off on that, which is a good time to kind of debut that. So
yeah, no, like right now, Wazoo I think is Jett, I don't know if you've been following it, but where we're ranking so far in terms of like the best college town on Barstool, we just beat out Tuscaloosa, didn't we?
Yeah, and then I think we get Montana State next. It's been our kicker on the newscast like a couple times. So yeah, we constantly bring it up.
Yeah. No, yeah. I'm looking forward. I mean, we are one of the better college towns. So I think that the vibes in the stadium could be, if we win, the vibes in the stadium are going to be pretty awesome. Because I do know that we haven't won an Apple Cup at Martin Stadium since like 2012, I think, or something like that. So it's been a while since we've won at home, which is brutal, which is like makes me really mad. But I'm always gonna be delusional and say I hope we break it this year, but I don't know if it's gonna happen.
I just think of the 2018 year with Gardner Minshew, and I think we were top 10 at the time. I know we were I believe it was 10-1, and the only loss was the USC Friday night game where the officiating was kind of questionable. And again, that was another year where every WSU fan is like, oh yeah, like we're gonna win, of course we're gonna beat UW. And yeah, and then it snowed and Gardner Minshew didn't play well and we lost. So I don't know, I feel like no matter what happens, even if it is a close game, it never goes in the favor of Washington State. So it's just, yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, we're cursed. We're the little brother. It kind of sucks.
Well, I guess close games, I'm kind of glad you brought that, because I mean, last year it was a close game for like the entire time, and then obviously there's that 4th and goal stand at the end of the game. I mean, obviously maybe for Jett's side, not the best idea to run a run option with a quarterback who can't run, but like in general, like the blueprint, I guess, is there for Wazoo to win. I guess like stick around long enough and hope that Washington kind of blows it there at the end. Do you realistically think this is something that the Cougars can replicate this year, of stick around long enough, have it be a 1-score game in the 4th quarter, or be leading in the 4th quarter, and maybe some timely penalties or a turnover from Damon kind of, or whoever, kind of turns the tide there?
I think that if we start Zevi, that we should not be starting Jackson Potter or Julian Duggar. It should be Zevi. At the start of the year, if you were talking to me, I would be like, oh yeah, we should do Jackson Potter, because everything coming out of fall camp was like Jackson Potter really won the job and he's looking really good, he's looking great and everything. And after those first 2 games, I was like, okay, I can see that, where it's like, yeah, he's looking okay, he's got a good arm, not that much of a rushing quarterback or anything like that. After that North Texas game, no. Like I know I said it was an anomaly, but like, what was it, Jett? Was it like 3 interceptions he threw? Something like that? In the
first half. We had five turnovers in the first half, and 3 were Jackson Potter interceptions.
Yeah, so that's kind of all you need to know. Like, we should not start Jackson Potter. If Jackson Potter starts, then I don't know what beef Jimmy Rogers has with Zevi from Eckhouse for not starting him. But so Zevi should start, because I think this is probably gonna be his last year in college football. I don't think he's gonna play in the NFL. That's where it's like you should start Zevi. Like, there's no reason not to. He's got the experience. He played in that second half, actually not the second half, the 3rd quarter, because they waited, I think, until the 3rd quarter to put him in, which I think was ridiculous in that North Texas game. considering Jackson Potter and Julian Dare combined for just a horrible game. I think, he proved that when he comes in, he can be a very effective quarterback. I think when I was talking about Xavier House before the season, I was talking about him being a good comparison would be he's the Drew Lock of the Cougars. He's that guy who's like, yeah, he's good. He's a good backup, right? Well, right now, our two starters, our two first and second string guys are playing worse than a really good backup. So I'm like, put in your really good backup now. Go put him in. This is going to be his last year of college football. Let him ball out. He's got a decent arm. He can move. He's he's a mobile quarterback. I like him. I like Xavier House. I have no beef against him. So I think he should start. And I think our defense is going to be really good. I know they kind of not necessarily fell apart in that North Texas game, but in the game against Idaho, in the game against SDSU, they were locked down. And I usually don't pay that close attention to defense because defense usually doesn't catch my eye that much. But something about this Wazoo defense, when I was watching the game, when I was doing the play-by-play for the SDSU game, they just really stick out to me. Just the names on that team, I think it's like Caleb Franco Francel, I can't remember, I never know how to pronounce his last name, Matthew Durrance, Parker McKenna, Colby Humphrey, these guys who are just dogs. And I think that's going to be a huge part of shutting down UW. I think Jonah Coleman's going to be a problem. I think he's just, it's kind of like a no-duh thing, right? I think he's going to be a problem. He's going to be hard. I think we did a good job. I'm trying to remember the name of Idaho's QB, who was a bit of a rushing QB. He ran a lot of play. He just took the rock himself and just tried to run it, and we were able to shut him down for the most part. Our run defense has been decent. Do I think it's enough to stop Coleman? I don't think so. I think Coleman's going to have a game against us. And if for some reason, here's the thing, if the defense can contain Coleman, I think that we could win this game. So I think it comes down to two things. It comes down to starting Zevi. That's number one. And number two is being able to shut down Coleman. So that was my long rant about how I delusionally think that the Cougs can beat the Huskies. But Jett, what are you thinking?
Okay, so I do agree with Andrew. College football, I'm a huge college football fan, and it's always been like, everybody will say, oh yeah, UW's going to kill WSU, why go to the game? And then it ends up being tied in the fourth quarter, and you're like, what the heck is going on? I just wanted to bring up, I remember 2 years ago, I was a student my first 2 years at WSU Tri-Cities. So my first time on campus was my junior year, and we played Arizona in Pullman. Jed Fish was the coach. Jonah Coleman was the running back, and we lost by 38. And I know it's a different system, especially with Rogers in it. But Jonah Coleman had 98 receiving yards, only 70 rushing yards, but he was sharing carries at the time with a couple other running backs. So what worries me is Fafita was the quarterback in that game. He's a running quarterback. Jonah Coleman's 2 years better now. My issue with the game is I think of it very much so in analytical, like what have we seen? And I have not seen enough. I question how good San Diego State is. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'll be at the game. Can I promise I'll stay past halftime if it's a blowout? I would just go home and I'll catch the second half of Illinois, Indiana, or Miami, Florida then.
Yeah, you kind of mentioned it with Jonah Coleman when he was sharing plays with some other running backs. I think that's the kind of thing for a lot of guys on our team. If you were just purely looking at the stats for Wazoo, whether that you're looking at QBs, whether you're looking at wide receivers, or whether you're looking at running backs, you got to consider that they are all sharing reps. We have 4 running backs that we've used. We used Angel Johnson, who's been a bit underwhelming, Pualasi, Voorhees, who kind of blew my socks off. I was not expecting Voorhees to be that good, and he has done great. And then Maxwell Woods, who's kind of our 4th string. But all 4 of those guys have they keep subbing in and off for every single play. We don't have a Jonah Coleman on our team who's he's going to be our number 1 running back, who's he's the best. Maybe Kirby Voorhees, you could say that, because I think he's leading the team right now for rushing yards. But wide receivers, it hasn't been Josh Meredith and Jeremiah Noga who have, been the top of the stats. It's been like Tony Freeman. It's been like Leon Neal Jr. It's been Trey Lechner. Trey Lechner got 2 touchdowns against San Diego State, which I was like, he's a tight end and he's done like nothing like for a while. And I was like, I've said his name twice so far. Like, what's going on? So it's like we sub in a lot of guys. I think the term I use a lot is we Frankenstein our offense together, where it's just like it's just a bunch of different guys who were pulling together for different plays and everything like that. It worked against San Diego State. I don't know if we did it that much against North Texas. Honestly, I did not watch that game. Once I was like passively watching it, and then once I realized they were just gonna pull us out, I was like, yeah, I'm not watching this anymore. I can't. It's like too painful. But that's the thing where I think like Jett, when you mentioned like talking like analytically, looking at what we've done, it's like you gotta take some of the stats with some of these guys with a grain of salt, and that they're taking 1/4 of the reps that like maybe they could. So that's a part of it too. And that's why like UW looks really good, because they have like the Jonah Coleman who's just like playing every single game or in every single play, and he's just falling out. So that's kind of my 2 cents about that.
Yeah, I guess the North Texas thing again, you mentioned the defense, and I guess it was kind of interesting because North Texas I think had like 42 points in the first half, but only I think it was like 190 yards of offense, which is like unthinkable for points per yard. So I guess for defensively, if you're trying to stop Jonah Coleman, how do you plan, or how should Washington State go about doing that? And then whether you stack the box or whatever, try and stop him, then how do you also account for Damon, who has struggled, I guess, a little bit with the deep ball, but also like you said with Fafita is a dual threat quarterback who can run the ball as well as throw it.
I mean, I didn't play football, so my ball knowledge in terms of that kind of stuff is pretty low. I have no shame in admitting that. Like when people like ask me, they're just like, "Oh, did you see the triple wide XYZ formation that they ran?" I'm like, "No, I did not. I can't. I can see what happened. I can see kind of what's going on." I mean, I'll say is that I have faith in the defense. I think Jesse Bobbitt is our defensive coordinator, who Rogers brought with him from San Diego State. I like him. I think he's building something really strong here. I think most of our transfers from SDSU are on defense. Like I think all of our running backs are from SDSU, and then like I don't know, like 80% of our defense, I think, or something like that, is all SDSU transfers. They know this defensive coordinator. They know the system. They had to, like we were saying that like. North Texas, most of their offensive production just came from their defense, like just forcing those turnovers and getting them in position. So I still have faith in that defense. I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly what they need to do to be able to stop Jonah Coleman. That's like, I think it's just going to be, it's going to be interesting to see. It's either going to be we contain him like completely, like he has like does nothing all night, or he just balls out against us. There's no in between. That's basically what I think.
I would have to say, man, for Coleman, what I would probably do is if we're gonna have to scheme it up, I would probably stack the box and maybe do like a little bit of a bracket on Denzel Boston, because Boston's the receiver that scares me. And to me, Damon has shown enough. Like maybe he isn't consistent or as consistent as UW fans want him to be, but Coleman and Boston are the two. Man, I think the hard thing is I would also want to spy on Damon because he's such a good athlete. So if we're doing all of trying to contain Coleman and Damon in the backfield and make sure Boston doesn't have a great game, like I just don't, we have a pretty good defense for the situation we're in, but to play a Big Ten level offense, I just don't think we have the athletes. That's what worries me. Because then, I mean, even if we did put a safety on top of Boston and stack the box, we would have all of our other corners on islands. And 2, 3, 4 deep, I just don't think our corners have it against UW's 2, 3, and 4 receivers. And then kind of going on the offensive side, like Smith was talking about, analytically, we have not lived up to the hype that we were hoping. So if we have any shot, I agree. I think we have to start Zevi, and I think we have to go to more of Noga, Meredith, Freeman. Like, we have to spread the wealth, and they have to show up. Like, there's no other way. I'm a huge Marvel fan, and so it reminds me of I think it was Infinity War when Tony Stark asked Doctor Strange, how many opportunities are there? And he's like 13,469,000 whatever. And how many chances do we win? And he's like, there's one. That's what I feel like. We have that one chance where if everything goes right and maybe there's a muffed punt or something weird happens, we have a shot.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing about the Cougs, is that we find ways to get that one alternate reality where we win. Like, it's especially in a rivalry game. Like, we just find the way to have that happen. We're just gritty like that. That's why I love the Cougs, because we just find ways to do it.
Actually, I think UW will take a 1 in 13 million chance. But yeah, so I guess that was kind of most of the questions I had. I guess you mentioned the Big Ten. I guess we can kind of you guys want to talk a little bit about that. So I guess we can kind of focus on it. It's I know it's obviously only year 2, but it's still very strange to be playing this game in September when normally we'd be ending the season on it. I guess, has that kind of set in for you guys yet, with this being like a September non-conference game?
I mean, I think it's, for me, it's a little bit of like a open wounds. Like, I kind of I kind of hated watching the Pac-12 kind of just like fold in on itself. But we're back. We're going to add a bunch more teams to the Pac-12, and it's coming back. So I'm hyped about that. It's still a rivalry game at the end of the day. You're right. It's early in the year now. Like, I remember last year when did we play it last year? Oh, it was also in September, right? It was like September 20th or something like that, around the same time.
I think it was week 4. It was the same exact time of the season. Yeah,
and I remember just like everyone was talking about the fact that it's just like this is really early. Like, we're never supposed to play an Apple Cup this early. It's definitely weird. I don't think it changes that much at the end of the day. Because like in history, there's been like a bunch of snow games because you're playing in like November, getting into December, that kind of stuff. I mean, I think it's nicer weather. I mean, that's kind of like the only difference. I think at the end of the day, it's still the Apple Cup. Like, whether or not we play in the Pac-12 or not, whether or not we're in the same division, it doesn't matter. I think for a lot of, especially because we're on an independent schedule this year, we're not really playing. The Pac-12 is just us and OSU right now, so it's like, I would say the Apple Cup for a lot of Wazoo fans is all that matters, especially because there's no Pac-12 anymore. All that matters is that we win the Apple Cup. We could go, 12 games in the season. We can go 1-11, but we won the Apple Cup. I'll consider that a win. I'll be like, man, we had a great year this year. We won the Apple Cup. That's all that matters. So I think for a lot of Coug fans, that's the case. At least for me, it is. But
I would have to say I try to think of a positive way around it, but I'm not a fan of the Pac-12. The future Pac-12. I wish we just sucked it up, joined the Mountain West, and kind of tried to become that 10-2 tier with like Boise, and maybe I think we would have a much better shot at the playoff then. And in my opinion, I know we had Arizona and UCLA, but basketball, I think there'd be more depth with Colorado State, San Diego State, Boise, Wyoming's good sometimes, Nevada. So I kind of wish we just joined the Mountain West. I do not like watching UW play Rutgers or Maryland in conference play. I definitely miss the Pac-12. But I really like that the Apple Cup is in September. I think, like I talked about 2018, it's not an excuse. Like I said, we always lose this game. But like snow games, I would like to see this game played good weather, equal playing field, technically, if you put it that way. No weather issues. Because we're the Cougs, we probably still would have couged that 2018 game anyway. But I'm kind of, it's at the end of the non-conference slate. Usually most conferences have 8 conference games and 4 non-conference, or 9 conference and 3 non-conference. So it's the end of non-conference. I kind of like it there. Yeah, I just missed the actual Pac-12 and not the Mountain West level of Pac-12 we're going to have.
Yeah, I guess off the record, for what's worth, I missed the Pac-12 too. Not a. Like I said, like we have like a game, whatever, in like October against Rutgers. Like no one cares. Nobody cares about that game. I don't care about that game. So yeah, definitely miss it. But yeah, I guess in terms of the Mountain West, it's been a whole thing, I guess, with the lawsuits. And I think you're playing a lot of Mountain West schools this year. Like, I don't know if you end up playing Colorado. You play San Diego State, but I don't know if you play Colorado State, or like you have a lot of those teams who are going to be joining the Pac-12 next year anyways. When I talked to the people at Colorado State for our season opener, they said that moving to the Pac-12 wasn't a huge thing. Like, I guess the actual games, it was going to feel pretty similar since you're already playing them anyways. I guess from your side, for seeing these teams come into your conference, does it, like, are these like good testing grounds for you to see kind of where Washington State and I guess Oregon State in that same tier kind of play out in the new Pac-12? Or for you, is it the similar thing where it's like we're already kind of playing these teams anyways, it doesn't feel like all that different once they actually join your conference next year?
Yeah, I think you kind of mentioned it. Like we play a lot of these teams already, and we have played them before, so there's not a lot of like question marks on like how good are these teams going to be or anything like that. Like we're playing Colorado State next, I think, after UW at Colorado at their park. So I think besides us and OSU, I'm not too worried about any of these teams joining the Pac-12. I think not saying here that like Wazoo is going to be the best school in the new Pac-12 and we're going to run things or anything like that. But it's like there's no school coming in that I'm like, okay, this is going to be like, like they're going to run stuff and we're going to get stuffed at the bottom of the Pac-12 or anything like that. I don't think that's going to happen. But the only situation I think that's going to happen is in baseball, because for baseball for the Pac-12 we added Dallas Baptist, who has made the College World Series like 11 years in a row, and they are really, 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 really good at baseball. So I'm actually really nervous about that because our baseball team is not that great. And we're looking a little bit better coming into this year, but still, I'm a little worried about that. But at the end of the day, I think these are all teams that we're familiar with and that we've played before. I mean, a lot of like, they weren't in the original Pac-12, but like, I think that it's gonna be fun to play against them. We've played against them before. I'm just looking forward to it. I just want the Pac-12 back at the end of the day. I just want to actually be in a conference and not just playing like soccer plays WCC, volleyball plays WCC, football is like playing against Mountain West teams, and baseball is in the Mountain West. It's like this like hodgepodge of different conferences, and it's like, no, can we have our own that we play in? It would be nice, but no, I'm looking forward to it.
I agree with you with the conference thing. Totally. I'm glad we have a home, but I've been very disappointed in the administration. I feel like WSU has always kind of been, like you said, like I've never really grew up a WSU fan, but the one thing I was really proud of is I feel like we were kind of down to earth with everything. And I don't know if it was just out of anger or what, but I thought it was extremely childish to play it off as some, we're like Pac-12, we're better. And I'm like, we're in Pullman, Washington. We've always been at a disadvantage recruiting. We've always, like, we've had with Leach, we had good years, but I mean, even if you look at Leach, he was kind of kicked out into the land of misfit toys, and he was successful with what he could work with, whether it was at Texas Tech, Lubbock's West Texas in the middle of nowhere, nothing surrounding it. Mississippi State's always the bottom of the barrel in the SEC, and then Pullman, Washington, like what's the closest thing here? Spokane, like an hour and a half away. So I was just very disappointed in the ego I felt like our administration had in saying like, oh, Pac-12, like we're Pac-12 level. And I'm just thinking, I thought it would have been way better if we just immediately accepted saying like, yeah, this sucks. We'll miss the Pac-12, but I think we would have been a great Mountain West level program. And I think if we accepted it, we could have found success and had a smoother transition between the Pac-12 to the Mountain West. And our football team, like I said, we've been pretty good recently, and we've had those breakout years. I think our 6-6 and 7-5 Pac-12 years could have been 10-2 Mountain West years potentially, and who knows what would have happened if that was the case, because now I think in our second year out of the Pac-12, we're in this weird, like we haven't settled down yet, and with NIL and the transfer portal, we don't have much to begin with already, and now a lot of student athletes are looking for stability when, we had success in track and field and they cut track and field like randomly. And it's just, yeah, I think in a world where stability is one of the main things in collegiate athletics, we really don't have much stability at all here right now.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, it's just rough for feel not pity, but feel sorry that they have to kind of go through a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, it's not looking pretty good over here in Pullman, at least for like athletics. Athletics has been a little weird. I remember I wrote a story about the track and field situation where, they, like you said, Jett, like they had a lot of success, and then they just kind of out of the blue were just like, yeah, we're cutting your program in half. Like, what do you mean? It's like throws gone. Oh, okay. Well, what about like sprinting and hurdling? Well, we're gonna trim that back. I'm like, oh, okay. What's not gonna get like cut? And they're like distance running. I'm like, what? Like, what's going on? It was really, really weird. I think, and you mentioned before, like the NIL stuff kind of just like doesn't help, and the house settlement with paying athletes now. It's just that pinch. There's that pinch on all athletics here, and we were already kind of like, I feel like money wise for Wazoo, we're always kind of just floating just above water with our heads, just trying to not drown, and that just puts another extra little bit of strain on us. But Andrew, you were talking about like, UW in the Big Ten. Would you, if you could like remake the Pac-12, would you want UW to be a Pac-12 team again?
In some ways, yeah, I think like the current Pac-12, I think Washington's still better off in the Big Ten, and like I think obviously in terms of like level of competition and I guess brand exposure, the Big Ten is still like a lot better. But like selfishly, yeah, I do miss the Pac-12. I mean, all of my friends are from Pac-12 schools. Like my first ever football game I ever went to was the UW Arizona game down in Tucson in 2021. And like someone for me who has friends who have gone to Washington State and cousins who have graduated from there, it's always like been something I've been aware of. So, I mean, yeah, I think ultimately Washington probably made the right move, I guess, in the long term going to the Big Ten. But yeah, like I've kind of written about before and tweeted back in 2023, I'd be lying if I said I didn't miss the Pac-12.
Yeah. You were asking us about how we were thinking that this game was going to go. I wanted to ask you as well, like, look, because like, obviously I imagine you're following UW a lot closer than maybe Jett and I are, being the, writing there for UW. So I'm wondering what you're thinking about this game coming in, where your kind of thoughts on it are.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not quite as optimistic, I think, as a lot of people are. Like people you see on Twitter right now, especially with how Washington did against UC Davis, where we scored on all 9 all 9 offensive possessions with the punt return touchdown. And obviously what happened against North Texas, people are saying, Huskies by a billion or whatever. And I'm cautiously optimistic, I guess. Like if Washington plays how it should, which is give Coleman, however many touches as he wants and let DeMond take care of the rest, Washington should absolutely win this game. Realistically, they probably should have won it last year too. And then, you have 16 penalties. You kind of dig your own grave there. So I think if Washington plays how it should, which is, run the ball a lot, make the plays that are necessary, they should win this game pretty handedly. But obviously it's a rivalry game. With the alcohol sales, this is honestly it's an environment, at least at Martin Stadium, that no one in Washington has ever seen before. And, especially, I guess, with everything that happens with the Pac-12, there's probably a little extra layer of animosity or anger there that, maybe other games haven't really had. So I think it's going to be luck. I think it's going to be closer than 20.5. I think that line is, I'm not a betting man, but if you are, I would probably bet the under on that. I would still hopefully imagine that Washington should have control going into the fourth quarter, but I do think it's going to be it's going to be a closer game, I think, than a lot of people are saying.
Yeah. And sorry, go ahead, Jett.
I just have a question then. Beyond WSU, how do you feel about UW the rest of the way? Because I've heard a lot of, they're the dark horse in the Big Ten. They could be the team that sneaks up and makes the playoff. I've heard, they could go 6-6. They have talent. How well do you think they will do with the rest of the season after the Apple Cup?
Yeah, I think Washington is in pretty good hands. We are very fortunate that our 2 toughest games against Ohio State and Oregon are both at home. That's a pretty lucky draw for us. Hopefully you can realistically maybe see them winning one of those 2 games. And fortunately, last year, the problem was that they were really good at home and then they were awful away from Husky Stadium. They were 0-7, not there. And luckily, our road stretch this year, we have UCLA, which is, I think, enough said about them. The less said about them, the better. And Maryland will be pretty chill. Wisconsin and Michigan might be tougher ones, but the road slate for Washington this year is a lot better than it was last year. So I definitely have always kind of said that Washington is kind of like a sleeper in the Big Ten this year. I did say 10-2. I could, after Colorado State, I'm thinking maybe more like 9-3, but I would say definitely their ceiling is higher than 6, or their floor is higher than 6-6. I'm pretty optimistic at Washington. I don't think they're going to exactly be playing for a national championship this year, but I think they are going to be a lot better than they were, last year, where they were 6-7 and couldn't stop getting in their own way.
Jedd Fisch is definitely successful in his second year of his tenure at the places he stopped. So, yeah, I think they'll be a top 25 team this year.
Yeah, you mentioned, Andrew, the national championship. I'm thinking about 2023 with the Michigan situation, because they found that Michigan was in that 2023 championship run. What were they doing exactly? They were stealing the play calls from the other team. I was kind of wondering what you're thinking about that. Do you think, because I know people were joking that it was UW should get the national championship, they should take it from Michigan or something like that. What are your kind of thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, Auburn just claimed 5 national championships, so I think they would be pretty validated, I guess, in doing so. I think for me, it doesn't take away the sting of what happened. I don't think the problem in that game was that they had their signs. I just think it was those 2 running plays in the first quarter. I guess you could argue holding on those. That kind of did it. Mike Penix just didn't play his best game. He was obviously hurt. So, I mean, it feels a little nice. You can throw the asterisks on there and be like, haha, I mean, not a real title. Washington is still the best, but it helps a little bit. But it still stings. Regardless of whatever Michigan was doing, UW had their chances in that one. The only positive for that for me is that for our staff, I was the only one who said Michigan would win that game, and they were right. So I mean, yeah, hopefully we hope with Fish we can get back to that point with Demond and Coleman and Mari Evans and Boston and whatnot. But yeah, it was what it is. Damage has been done at this point. So we also claim 1960 as a national championship, which a lot of people say isn't legit. So I guess for some it kind of evens out.
Yeah, you mentioned Michael Penix. Think about that like now, because Michael Penix is basically your guys' QB who's in the NFL right now. And then we got Cam Ward. I'm not going to mention Gardner Minshew because Gardner Minshew's been in the league for a while now. But you think about Michael Penix and Cam Ward, who are you thinking is going to be the better QB, in their career? Because I know Michael Penix didn't play that much last year, and I think he has the starting spot now in the Falcons, though, doesn't he? Or is he still competing with Kirk Cousins? I'm not sure. But I'm just wondering who you kind of are thinking is going to be. Is it going to be the Cougar, the Husky, who's going to end up being the better franchise quarterback?
Penix.
Yeah, I mean, Penix didn't play amazing on Sunday. He played all right. I think Cam Ward's tough because he plays for Tennessee and they're just no good. Maybe if he gets traded somewhere, because he's good. He made that one crazy throw there at the end of the first half. That was pretty spectacular. I think, I guess in terms of being mobile, Cam Ward's obviously a lot better at that than Penix. Penix kind of is more stand in the pocket, deliver darts. I think overall Penix's weapons are a little bit better. So I think at least early on he might have a better start to his career. And whatever happens from there. But I think both can definitely be really good in the NFL. Once Kyle Pitts ever has his breakout season, then that'll be good for Penix. But yeah, I think both are going to be pretty good. I think Wazoo actually. What the thing about Wazoo is that they always seem to have those really good quarterbacks, and then they leave. Like Cam Ward, Gardner Minshew didn't leave, but he's had a pretty good NFL career, and John Mateer now at Oklahoma. And we thought maybe for a week after thinking that maybe Jackson Potter was going to be the next, and then North Texas. So we'll see. I think both will have pretty good careers, though.
Yeah, I think Jackson Potter just needs to develop. I think we rolled him out too soon. He wasn't fully baked. Redshirt sophomore, so he's been here for 3 years, which is actually kind of a long time. But still, I think that when you have Zevi in your quarterback room, who this is his last year in college football, it's why are we rolling out the redshirt sophomore who maybe needs a little bit more time to develop? He looked good, but I wouldn't say that those first 2 games were a fluke and oh wow, he's not that good. I think he is good, but I think he just needs a little bit more time to get up to speed with what I think he can be. I think that they should definitely be on Zevi. Just purely as the reason why college athletics exists is to give opportunities to kids to go play football. They're still kids at the end of the day. They're over 18, but it's you're a kid. The whole point of you playing here is to develop, is to get playing time, is to because it's the reason why it's still the same format as high school, where you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. You have seniority once you get to that, your senior year. That's how I've always looked at it, and I've always viewed it. I think the business side of football kind of kills it a little bit, where it's just we got to go with the guy who's the better starter or something like that. And we want to build a program that's going to win a lot of games. And they're no, at the end of the day, you're just trying to develop players, to give these opportunities for kids to play the sport they love, and to be able to then develop and then go to the league. That's why I love guys who play all 4 years at the same college and don't transfer, stay. They trust the process. They start as they're, not getting very much playing time as a freshman. Sophomore, maybe get a little bit more. Junior, get a little bit more. And then your senior year, you're a starter. That was Will Cresswell for the Cougs. He was our catcher for the baseball team. I love him. He's from Auburn, Washington, so he's a Washington product. And he played all 4 years as a Coug for the baseball team. Didn't transfer. He was good. He's really good. He got drafted by the Toronto Blue Jays. I love him. Because that's, to me, that epitomizes what college sports is supposed to be. You're supposed to go to a school, especially a state school like Wazoo. That's the whole reason why we exist, is to give you opportunities. So you come here, you play all 4 years, and you develop. And he's a guy who knows how to trust the process. And so now that he's in the minor leagues, I have no doubt that he's gonna trust the process, and he's just gonna get better and better. And I have no doubt he'll be maybe not a starting catcher for the Blue Jays, but he'll make his way to the majors. And so that'll be super fun to watch. But one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, besides Jonah Coleman, because I think that he's a little bit of a anomaly in terms of how good he is, Who's another guy on that UW roster who, for the Apple Cup, you think is going to kind of have a breakout game?
Yeah, so Jett mentioned that you're kind of expecting maybe a lot of heavy pressure on Denzel Boston. That's the receiver that you may be worried about. And I think that leaves a lot of opportunities for Desmond Roebuck, who's one of our newer receivers, to kind of have a breakout game. He had a pretty good one against Davis. I mean, he had one dropped pass and then pretty much right a return around, had like a crazy 47-yard touchdown, broke a bunch of tackles. So I think if Denzel Boston and Amari Evans are the ones kind of getting a lot of, well, if Amari Evans plays, we'll see. But if Boston's the ones getting a lot of attention, that's going to leave a lot of opportunities for Roebuck to have a lot of chances. And I think if there's anyone who's going to have a lot of big plays, it's either going to be him or Raiden Vine-Sprite, who's our other freshman wide receiver. I also think in going to our backfield, Adam Muhammad, he's our second stringer. He's also had a lot of pretty good moments. We'll see if he ends up getting a lot more touches in this game if they are expecting Coleman to do a lot. So he's also, I think, another person to look out for. But I think definitely if they're going to focus on trying to stop Jonah Coleman, that's going to leave a lot of chances for those freshman wide receivers to have those big plays that UW would like to have against the Cougs.
Jett, who are you kind of looking at for Wazoo? Kind of the same question. Like who on the Wazoo team do you think is going to have a pretty good game for the Apple Cup?
I would kind of have to go back to what I was saying of like what we need. I think it is hard because as the power conference teams, the non-conference Idaho and North Texas used to kind of be like, we're not going to show too much of what we're going to be, and then we get into conference play and we like show out. Well, maybe that's Jeremiah Noga. I think he's going to be the guy who's going to have a breakout game because we need him. But I do question a bit, like, where was he against North Texas earlier in the game, So I would stick with Noga. I'm really skeptical. I know Voorhees has done pretty well, but I'm still a little skeptical on our run game, especially against UW.
Yeah.
So the hope I have is in our receiving room, and then just maybe a quarterback who can get the ball to them, hopefully.
Yeah. It's cool that like Tony Freeman and Trey Lechner and Leon Neal Jr. have been getting as many catches as they have. Like, I think they have more yards than Josh Meredith and Jeremiah Noga. Like, that's cool and that's great. Like, oh wow, these are like some unsung heroes that you didn't know about. But why are we not targeting Meredith and Noga? Because like they are the two like objectively the best receivers that we have. Like Josh Meredith is a stud. He's really good. I went back and was watching like Apple Cup highlights, and it's just him reeling in touchdown passes, and it's like I forgot how good Josh Meredith is. Like these are two guys who you need to target more. So I agree with you. I think Jeremiah Noga. I think it's both Jeremiah Noga and Josh Meredith, because those are two guys. I mean, we basically have heard nothing from Josh Meredith except for the touchdown pass in the Idaho game. That was kind of it, and he hasn't really done anything else. And he was going into the season, I was expecting him and Noga to kind of be like the top dogs. Like they are going to get the most passes, most catches, everything. And they just haven't. And then I think Zevi, because I think I have like no doubt in my mind, in my soul, that Zevi is gonna get that starting spot. And if he doesn't, I'm just not gonna watch the game. Like I'm doing the recap for the game. I'm there. If I'm up in the press box and I look down, I see Jackson Potter on the first play, I'm packing up my stuff and I'm going home. I'm not watching the game. Okay? So it needs to be Zevi. And I think Zevi could have a pretty good game in the Apple Cup. I think he's kind of, not that he's built for the big moments, but like the Holiday Bowl, right? Picking up the slack for John Mateer. He had an okay game. Well, I think he threw 2 interceptions or something in that game. But I mean, he was playing with a team that was duct taped together because we had so many transfers and we were falling apart. We had interim coach, it's like you can take but he threw 2 interceptions in the Holiday Bowl against Syracuse. And Syracuse was a decent program. There's a reason why they were bowl eligible. Like they were pretty good, and so not great. But he still held his own. So I think that I know the question was like one guy who you think is going to be the breakout, but I got to go with 3. I'm going to go Josh Meredith, Jeremiah Noga as wide receivers. Then I'm going to go Zevi as the QB. I think he's just going to have a really great game. So if they can piece everything together, I think that the Cougs come away with a win. So
I was going to say, if I had to do a UW one, Vines Bright he's flashed a lot of talent. I think he could be, but one that I think we need to look out for is Decker DeGraff, the tight end at UW. I just going down the list of dudes that UW has. Especially like Decker DeGraff. Who would we even put on him? I don't know, man. And then Boston, Roebuck. Holy cow! Like this, it's just it's daunting for me with what we have to see. Who would we put on? The number 4 receiver. Tough.
Yeah, it's not looking great for us. That's why I'm delusional. I think we could come away with a win, but I don't think so. The
one guy I'm high on defense, we haven't talked much defense, is Ram Stevenson for us. He hasn't had as great of a year looking at his stats here. He's only had 4 tackles. I think he could have a pretty big game. I'm high on Ram Stevenson.
Yeah, our defense is looking really good. Like I keep saying that. It's like our defense is probably the highlight. It hasn't been offense. Really hasn't been offense. It's mainly been defense. They've just kind of been like, it's like besides like the Legion of Boom was like it's the exception of like a defense where like holy cow, this is so fun to watch. I'm not saying that like this Cougar defense is like the Legion of Boom or something like that, but it's that same vein of like when a defense is so good and so fun to watch that you're like, holy cow, I know the guys on defense, which I usually don't know the guys on defense because I'm not paying attention to them. So I'm actually paying attention to our guys. So I love our defense this year. I think that's going to be a huge thing that keeps us in this game.
Stop as much as you can. All right, that was everything for me. There's anything else you guys want to talk about?
I was going to see if you guys want to do some score predictions because I know Jett, what was yours in our meeting yesterday? Was like 41-10 or something like that.
Yeah, 41-7. I'm not too high. That might be a little bit too much, but I do agree with the spread. I would put this, analytically, I threw it in. I have an algorithm that I do for predictions and rankings, and it said basically between like 35 to 42 points UW will score, and we're going to have, I think it said like 14-21, somewhere in that area. So going with the numbers, I would have to say I think we might be able to keep it close just because of the hype of the game. And then I think it could be 2-3 touchdowns. So UW 38, WSU 17, probably something in that area.
Yeah. For mine, I'd probably go 28-21 Cougs winning. Again, because I'm delusional. And there's no, even looking at the numbers, looking at the data, looking at like everything else that would say that we're not going to win this game. The Coug fan inside me just silences all of that and is just like, no, let's go Cougs. Like it's gonna be 28-21 Cougs. When I say 28-21, I can never, as much as I love football, you'll never be able to predict like what extra points they're gonna get or anything like that. So I say 28-21, basically just meaning like it's gonna be a 1 possession game. It's gonna come down to one touchdown. So I think that's what it's gonna be close. And so that's kind of a cop-out saying like, oh, it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be 1 touchdown. But like, I do think that it's a rivalry game. Like at the end of the day, it's no matter how good or better one program is, even the little brother is always going to come out with that chip on their shoulder. And that's going to change how they play. They're going to be a little bit more gritty. They're going to be a little bit more, they're going to want it a lot. And the big brother, in this case, UW, those teams always are like not quite a trap game, but it's where it's like, hey, we know we're supposed to win this game, but what if we don't? And all those things factor into making it a little bit closer of a game, So that's where I kind of sit with it being 28-21 Cougs. Because again, I'm a Coug fan, so I'm delusional. But at the end of the day, I'm going 28-21. So that's mine. What do you got, Andrew?
Yeah, I do think I think it's be a pretty close one. I think just the hype. I think it's. I don't know if this feel like it affects people. It just happens. It's just something that happens in sports where you can't explain why it's close, but it is. I think this is going to be a one score. I think it's going to be a 1-score game going into the fourth quarter, and I think probably a late Washington touchdown is going to put it away. So I'll say, yeah, probably Washington 37, Wazoo 24.